I always admire vintage homemade electronic gadgets. In this case, a low-level mono-in, stereo-out audio adapter. It's in this rather attractive little speckle tone finish aluminum project box and was obviously hand-assembled and probably just eyeballed, judging by the way that the quarter-inch input jacks are not quite lined up perfectly, nor is the RCA output jack panel centered on the back of it. And some of the screws are not quite matching, but hey, it gets the job done and survived probably over 50 years now in good condition, including these Dymo labels with these nicely rounded corners I've never seen before. I don't know if they had a special machine to cut those out or if somebody actually cut those out by hand. The sticker saying low level may be a reference to the fact that it was quite common for consumer grade audio equipment to use RCA jacks not just for line level audio but also for the amplified speaker outputs. So this label is warning us that this device was not designed to handle speaker level audio and could possibly be damaged by it. So at least at face value, what this thing does is accept 3 quarter-inch mono audio input jacks and converts it to a pair of RCA audio output jacks. It says stereo, but it's probably just dual channel mono, because with this thing being completely passive, there's no power supplied to run any circuitry in here. It's just going to be taking that mono input and duplicating it to both output jacks. Essentially the same as what I can do with this series of adapters to convert quarter-inch mono to 3.5mm mono to 3.5mm stereo to stereo RCA jacks. Or actually, when I first picked this up, it had this quarter-inch to RCA jack adapter plugged into it, in which case the adapter would be even simpler to convert mono RCA to stereo RCA. Although that's assuming you only need one input at a time. The thing that makes this converter box special is that it has 3 inputs. So I want to take a look inside this and see how they wired it up. And what better way to do that than to use this period correct Made in USA Crescent screwdriver. Yes, you've probably heard of Crescent wrenches. Well, this is a Crescent screwdriver. The fact that this thing is using regular slotted screws instead of Phillips screws or something exotic like Torx screws is another sign of its age. Those are just sheet metal screws. It's not a tapped thread in the case. Okay, let's reveal the magic. Ta-da! Well, I must say this was very nicely and neatly assembled and soldered. On the input side, it is just tying together the grounds of the 3/4-inch jacks and then running them to the grounds of the RCA output jacks. But on the signal side of the input, they are again just tied together, but then it runs through a pair of resistors before going to the RCA outputs. The resistors are both color-coded brown, black, red, indicating a 1000 ohm value, and then a gold band indicating 5% tolerance. And as you might have realized, this circuitry is not directional. It can just as easily accept a stereo RCA input and produce 3 mono outputs through these quarter-inch jacks at a slightly reduced level. I found a schematic for what is called an unbalanced stereo to unbalanced mono converter, and it uses the same arrangement of dual 1K resistors. The description says this circuit works well. You may lose a bit of volume using this, but it's nothing a gain adjustment can't fix. Unfortunately, whoever built this some 50-odd years ago left us no clue as to their identity, although I did notice this stamp under the inside of the lid for Premier Metal Products. I'll try to look that up, see if I can find any information about them. Well, how about that? The company is still in business today here in New Jersey, and they still manufacture instrument cases in 30 standard sizes. So now I think it's time to button this back together and finally give it a try. First, I have the output of this CD player connected to the input of this cassette deck. And I'll play this CD, which has some test tones recorded on it. And I adjusted the recording level so that the meters on the cassette deck read exactly 0 dB when the tone is playing.
Broadway show tunes on SA.
And now, instead of having the output of the CD player connected directly to the input of the cassette deck, I'm taking just one channel of the CD player's output, leaving the other channel disconnected, connecting that to the input of the mono to stereo converter, then taking the output of that and putting it into the input of the cassette recorder. And now with the mono to stereo converter in circuit, let's try that again.
Broadway show tunes on SA.
There has been a very slight drop in level, but not even 1 dB. You would hardly even notice it. I'm back to having the output of the CD player connected directly to the input of the cassette deck. The mono to stereo converter is completely out of circuit. I'll play this stereo test CD, which begins with a channel identification test, and we'll find out together how good the stereo separation is of the microphones that are built into this Panasonic SDR-H101 hard drive camcorder I imported from Mexico because it was never officially sold here in the US.
The Fender bass guitar you are about to hear should appear to come from the left loudspeaker only. The Fender bass guitar you are about to hear should appear to come from the right loudspeaker only.
Well, I had the levels a bit hot on that one, but you could see and hear the demonstration. Now I have both channels of the CD player connected to the inputs of the device, so it will be combining them together to mono and then outputting that into the cassette deck. This time you'll hear and see the audio being reproduced through both channels equally.
The Fender bass guitar you are about to hear should appear to come from the left loudspeaker only. The Fender bass guitar you are about to hear should appear to come from the right loudspeaker only.
Ultimately, this little low-level mono-in, stereo-out converter doesn't really do anything that a couple of back-to-back wide cables and adapters couldn't do, but you just have to admire the fact that somebody out there, some 50-odd years ago, decided they had such a pressing need for exactly this kind of device that they decided to hardwire it into this attractive brushed aluminum enclosure and even put these helpful Dymo labels on it, so even yuts like me could immediately figure out what it does just by reading them.